took a more linear approach and just had you fighting a bunch of monsters and battleships by spamming them with a cannon.
More hour.
In Spirit Tracks, there's only so much they can do to prevent the repetition of following the railroad constantly. There's only so many times I can shoot enemies and go choo-choo through the same routes until it gets boring. Especially if you're aiming to collect Force Gems and see more of the world. All of this to say, I vastly prefer the overworld of Phantom Hourglass. I'm sorry, I really tried to appreciate Spirit Tracks' overworld, but I felt like it was blundering its own potential at every step. The main quest more than makes up for it, but the overworld is simply impossible for me to ignore.
It's just
if there's one thing Spirit Tracks' overworld has over Phantom Hourglass, it's the music. No other overworld theme in Zelda sounds quite like it, and few get me as pumped to venture out into parts unknown. The train's engine even syncs up with the percussion of the song at full speed. This overworld theme is legendary, and even if I didn't always love what I was doing in Spirit Tracks' overworld, at least this theme got me excited to be a part of it. Well, there's only two major gameplay elements left to talk about. Let's jump into the Temple of the Ocean King and the Tower of Spirits. Let's start with the former. The Temple of the Ocean King is without a doubt the most controversial aspect of Phantom Hourglass. Here's how it works. You see these squares? These are safe zones. When you step outside of these zones, the titular Phantom Hourglass will start counting down. If a Phantom Guard sees you when you're running around, you need to sprint back to a safe zone. If you get hit by the guard, time will be taken out of your hourglass and you'll be sent to the floor's entrance. At first, you'll only need to clear a few floors within the time limit. Then you'll beat a dungeon and have to come back. From there, you'll have a little more time thanks to each dungeon boss granting you more Sands of Hours, and you can even find Sands of Hours in the overworld. But you'll have to clear the floors you cleared last time in addition to all of the new floors they throw at you. Wash, rinse, repeat for the rest of the game. Almost every time you clear a dungeon, you'll come back for more. In total, the Temple of the Ocean King features 13 floors, which means you'll be repeating its earlier floors several times throughout a single playthrough. This absolutely kills the pacing of the game for most people, and sinks the game into this formulaic and predictable structure that would put Skyward Sword to shame. I mean, at least Skyward Sword had a purpose for its structure despite all of its problems. This is just extreme. When I describe Phantom Hourglass as an accessible Zelda game, this excludes the Temple of the Ocean King entirely. However, if you are willing to look past the repetition like I was, you will find that the Temple of the Ocean King encompasses everything that Phantom Hourglass is about. First of all, the puzzles in this temple are usually fun to solve the first time around, which is on brand for Phantom Hourglass. Floors 7 to 9 employ a ton of lateral thinking as you attempt to transport the 3 key gems through each floor and around the Phantom Guards, while floor 6 has you discern a pattern to right on the door that reveals itself to be an hourglass. Doing these puzzles repeatedly will be as fun. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure things out. That's where the brilliance of this temple comes to light. Your first clue into the temple's true nature appears as you bring new items into old floors. You can use bombs and the bow to skip puzzles on earlier floors when you only had the boomerang. Then, as puzzles get more complex and you begin to forget the solutions, you'll find that there is absolutely no way to clear this temple optimally without taking notes. The very thing that drives a lot of Phantom Hourglass's design allows gameplay of the Temple of the Ocean King to thrive. After coming to this realization, I took note of basically everything. I mentioned Charlie from Always Sunny in a previous puzzle. Well, these scroll-ups will make you think I've been hunting Pepe Sylvia my whole life. Although you might not be able to discern my system from looking at these scrollings, they help me optimize my movement and master each floor. I was skipping puzzles and taking as little time as possible to perform the necessary tasks. The Temple of the Ocean King conditions its players to speedrunning, which is kind of incredible. The speed at which I eventually came to complete these floors felt like the climax of the skills I developed with my items and my note-taking. After clearing the dungeon for the first time, you can come back and try to beat your best time for increased odds of winning a golden ship part, and every single treasure chest will respawn, giving you more opportunities to collect this. The Temple of the Ocean King may be less of a chore now because I've memorized and mastered its floors and planned out my route, but that doesn't make it any less repetitive to put myself through. Although my conclusion over the speedrun-driven design of this temple is totally valid, some people won't really give a damn about how fast you can go. There's a good chance that all they'll see is repetition and annoyance, even if you can speed things up with diligence. And to be honest, I don't really blame you if you still feel this way. I swear, if I ever have to hear those little flying alarms beeping again, I might lose it. Taking notice of how controversial the Temple of the Ocean King was with players, the team took a different approach to the Tower of Spirits. And I love it. At the beginning of the game, Princess Zelda's spirit leaves her body as the big bad attempts to use it as a vessel for the Demon King Malleus. Link and Zelda's spirit end up working together as they attempt to unify the fragmented Tower of Spirits throughout the game. On certain floors, you'll be able to collect 3 tiers of light by sneaking around phantom guards and solving puzzles. Upon doing this, you'll be able to slay the phantoms and allow Zelda to possess the now vacant suit of armor. Zelda can walk through hazards that Link cannot, meaning that the two of them constantly have differing and intersecting applications for puzzle solving. At first, you need to use the items you obtained in dungeons to solve puzzles. Once you've collected those tiers, Zelda can carry Link across on her shield to reach higher places and cross lava, she can distract guards, and plenty of other things. And Link's items can also create a path for her when she needs help, like when she can't cross sand or she needs to escape from several Floor 20 of the Tower of Spirits. Remember how you can lift these orbs now? You can have Zelda carry you through the lava to place them upon the platforms and create a long chain that unlocks the stairs to the next floor. Or how about having Zelda carry you around while using the sand wand to make sure she doesn't sink? There's a lot of potential for complex puzzle solving, and the Tower of Spirits realizes that potential. As you ascend further up the tower, you'll discover different types of armor for Zelda to possess. Phantom Hourglass had different types of phantoms that would run faster and warp to Link's location, but these pale in comparison to the types of phantoms in Spirit Tracks, and they don't just work against you in this game. For example, this segment of the tower is shrouded in darkness unless you use the fire swords of the phantoms to guide your way. There's no map to follow either, so you can also create your own map based on the paths you've taken, far more subtle than Phantom Hourglass and much less stressful. Once Zelda is able to possess them, you'll use her light to find secrets you've missed and discern a pattern to move through the exit. In the next phase of the tower, there are phantoms that warp to your location once alerted by these so annoying little drones. Thankfully, with the right suit of armor, Zelda can actually warp to these drones when you draw a path to them. I absolutely loved this puzzle on floor 15. These drones can only follow a set path, and if it just went a little further and over the sand, you'd be able to have Zelda warp to the other side. As it turns out, you need to use the whirlwind to stun the drone and push it across the sand, and then quickly warp before the drone wakes up or before the other phantoms attack you. This puzzle made me feel like a genius, and there's plenty more ahead. The next type of phantom can roll through rocks and enemies, and although I was initially underwhelmed by its applications, the final floors of the Tower of Spirits throw every single type of phantom into the mix at once, while also allowing Link to use all of his items. Warps, darkness, and rolling around all thrown into the same puzzles, with plenty of opportunities to incorporate items into the mix. You'll also need to go up and down to different floors in order to work through bits and pieces of each puzzle, and each floor focuses on a separate central theme. This phase rocks. The overall layout of the tower also gets gradually more complicated, with these panels that swap Link and Zelda's positions, multiple locked doors, corridors and areas that divide Link and Zelda in different ways. Man, I love the Tower of Spirits. Everything that the game has taught you comes together in some of the most fun I've had between both of these games. It would honestly take me hours to talk about every single puzzle that makes this place as fun as it is. But when I said the main quest more than makes up for a weak overworld, I wasn't just talking about the dungeons and bosses. I was also referring to the Tower of Spirits. It's that good. And the best part about this place, aside from the awesome puzzles, is that you don't need to repeat all the floors once you've completed them. After finishing a dungeon, you come back to the Tower of Spirits and simply move on to the next phase of the tower. And as your trip up the stairs grows longer, the more the tower's music accompanies you.
Ow. Sure, that hurt really bad.
Perhaps my favorite part about this whole Link and Zelda dynamic is how the characters grow closer over the course of the game. Zelda finally plays a crucial role in progressing the story, instead of simply being a damsel in distress. I mean, her spiritless body was being held captive still, but she and Link became friends and worked towards defeating Meliodas together, right to the very end of the game. The two of them seem to have great chemistry. Zelda is scathingly honest sometimes, but she isn't annoying or overbearing at any point. Zelda's characterization and role in the main quest were both a breath of fresh air. Even Wind Waker couldn't seem to back down from holding Tetra captive at the end of the game, but she did end up helping Link defeat Ganondorf in the end. This fight paralleled the climactic battle of Ocarina of Time, seemingly giving Ganondorf what he always wanted, even if it meant he would inevitably be defeated. It feels as though Zelda is mirroring Tetra's resolve by assisting Link throughout this game, even calling Tetra by her preferred name when praying during the final battle, rather than using the name that was thrust on her by fate, Princess Zelda. Speaking of which, let's round this video out by discussing the stories and finales of each game. Phantom Hourglass begins with Nico retelling the events of the Wind Waker through his paper cutouts. Link is unenthused, but I admire Nico's talent after being depicted as the lowest-ranked pirate on Tetra's ship. The basic plot is that Tetra is kidnapped by the ghost ship and turned to stone, and with the help of Oshus' infinite wisdom, Link, Ciela, and the selfish and cowardly Captain Linebeck must explore the world of the Ocean King for a way to enter the ghost ship, rescue Tetra, and eventually defeat the evil Bellum. Linebeck is the linchpin of Phantom Hourglass's narrative, despite appearances. All he seems to care about is treasure. If Link's adventures can make him rich, then he's willing to sail with him. When Oshus reveals himself as the Ocean King, and that there was no treasure aboard the ghost ship all along, Linebeck immediately tries to abandon Link, until Oshus promises him one wish for defeating Bellum, and he springs back into action. Linebeck might seem like a jerk now, but knowing the Zelda series' tendency to have endearing characters that act abrasive all the time, I knew he would eventually grow on me. As the blacksmith Zaz once said, "Humans always think that unless they say something, others won't hear them. Truth is, people talk just as loudly with their hearts." Throughout the game, he will constantly be pursued by a pirate named Shogun. She's out for Linebeck's blood, and she never seems to let up. Every time her icon pops up on the map, I panic and attempt to gun it, but she always seems to catch up with me eventually. Every time she climbs aboard the ship, you'll have a fight with her, and Linebeck will reward you for driving her away. He later reveals that he once sailed with her after accidentally crashing into an enemy ship that was attacking her, and saving her life. Of course, he compromises this act of heroism by stealing her treasure and sneaking away, but the idea that he may have actually helped someone in need hints toward his true nature. He even shows some gratitude to Link in the form of a letter, even giving him a ship part as a gift. Their adventures are starting to have an effect on him. Eventually, Link conquers the Temple of the Ocean King and goes on to fight Bellum. The first phase has you removing the ooze from Bellum's body and then yanking him towards you, shooting at his tentacles from afar while strafing around him, and climbing the stairs surrounding the arena to get on his level, all while dodging moves and minor enemies he spawns. The fight is engaging, and the music is fantastic.
けど君のためじゃないよ。
Eventually, you team up with Ciela thanks to her true powers, the spirit of time and courage, to freeze time at just the right moment and land hits on his weak spot. After this, Bellum snags Tetra just as she returns to normal. Bellum possesses the ghost ship and attempts to take her away, to which Linebeck responds with a surprising amount of determination. The effort you put into your ship's health really only pays off here, and it's not all that challenging to just shoot at the projectiles that fly at you. It's the final phase where things become truly incredible. After boarding the remains of a sunken ghost ship, Linebeck's ship is sunk with Oshus still aboard. On top of that, Link is taken hostage by Bellum, and he drops his sword. Linebeck finally steps up to the plate and stabs one of Bellum's tentacles, forcing him to drop Link. Linebeck manages to fend off Bellum long enough for Link to come to, but Bellum possesses Linebeck and locks you into a duel with him, fighting in a suit of armor. This duel is so much fun. You need to cut through his defenses with nothing but your sword, leaving Ciela open to give you a charge for your time-stopping power. His weak point is only visible for a brief window, so you need to quickly pick the right moment to stop time. He'll also perform a spin attack with a very wide
Seriously, how do I deal with this?
which can be difficult to avoid. Eventually, he'll go down, freeing Linebeck, restoring the world of the Ocean King to normal. As it turns out, Oshus is fine. He just turned into a whale, which makes sense when you consider that Bella is a squid, the natural enemy of the sperm whale. In the end, Linebeck doesn't wish for treasure or riches. He wishes for his ship. Ciela, appreciating Linebeck's selfless deeds at the end of their journey. Thanks, Linebeck. After all that chastising, seeing Linebeck distraught with her leave was genuinely heartbreaking, as is the revelation that the world of the Ocean King was merely an illusion created by Oshus. Throughout the game, I always wondered where the world of the Ocean King is, relative to the Great Sea. I simply thought it was the waters beyond the Great Sea, sort of like how Termina exists just outside of Hyrule. A lot of the game seems to parallel Termina in that regard. Certain characters reminiscent of ones from Wind Waker don't recognize Link at all, although I have argued that Salvatore at least remembers him. I suppose one could say that the world of the Ocean King is just a flooded
Never mind,
Termina.
that was a bad
That's why
idea.
Link, Tetra, and Linebeck awakening from their adventures feels so surreal, as if it were a dream created by their memories. But because Link has the Phantom Hourglass and Linebeck's ship has returned, we know it wasn't. It is left open to interpretation, much like Majora's Mask, and thus concludes the adventures of the Hero of Winds. As for Linebeck, we don't know where he decides to go after the credits roll, but his memory is honored in Spirit Tracks,
You know what?
wherein his epitaph states that he came to the new land and started a family, confirming that he actually learned
I'm
to
sick
care
of
for
doing the
people
boss
other than
rush.
himself.
That's the real problem here.
Arknights, a tower defense with over 1.
It's cool and novel being able to fight them all over again, but like... Frick, man.
For people other than himself. Spirit Tracks takes place about 100 years after Phantom Hourglass.
I'm gonna
Nico
go
is the
in,
only
I'm
member
gonna
of
go
Tetra's crew that is still alive,
use the other
and his
version
creative
of
talents have improved dramatically since his
Endgame.
time there. Once again, this new incarnation of Link remains disinterested. There's something so tragic about Nico being the only surviving crew member, but he seems to take it in stride. So, let's talk about this new Hyrule for a second. Basically, Tetra heeded the king's words at the end of the Wind Waker and founded a new Hyrule. I figured she wouldn't literally create a new Hyrule, instead creating a quaint land of her own. Kind of like how the people of the Great Sea have long since moved past Hyrule and its customs. But no, this new Hyrule uses the exact same customs that the previous kingdom did, except now they travel by train. This isn't something I entirely agree with, but the game at least honors the wishes of Wind Waker's characters, so it isn't a huge deal. The basic plot of this game is that Link is an engineer graduating from the academy. One of the officials at the ceremony, Cole, is actually a double agent for the Demon King Malladus, and he steals Zelda's body to use as a host for Malladus with the help of his assistant, Byrne, and fractures the Tower of Spirits. Throughout the game, you and Spirity Zelda over here work together with the Lokomo Anjin to retrieve Zelda's body and stop Cole from resurrecting Malladus. Like I've discussed, Link and Zelda's dynamic make the game immediately more enticing, and it parallels the relationship between the Hero of Winds and Tetra. But the true star of the show here is Byrne. First of all, he has a really cool demeanor and character design, and he makes a strong first impression as he completely overpowers Alfonso. As it turns out, he once trained under Anjin, seeking nothing but power. Anjin dismissed him as unworthy, forcing him to look elsewhere. There's actually a fight with Byrne at the top of the Tower of Spirits, wherein you have Zelda yank him by his gauntlet and catch him as he charges forward, and then wail on him. It feels similar to the fight with Bellum at the end of Phantom Hourglass, but simpler in order to prepare you for what's to come. Byrne retreats from the battle as Cole resurrects Malladus in Zelda's body. He declares himself as the one that freed him from his prison, but Malladus nearly kills him. Byrne's pursuit of power is reminiscent of King Bulblin from Twilight Princess, and as the hero's Shade once told us, a sword wields no strength unless the hand that holds it has courage. Link, Zelda, and Anjin still choose to bring Byrne to safety, wherein he sees the error of his ways and tells the trio what they need
Double
to pursue
scan his
Malladus and
health.
bring him down. This brings us to the Dark Realm, where Spirit Tracks finale takes place. Although I loved Phantom Hourglass's ending, I always felt that they could have tightened up the gameplay in a few areas. The first phase with Bellum was creative, but a bit too easy. The second phase was even easier, and felt as though the effort spent upgrading my ship wasn't entirely worth it. In response, Spirit Tracks created one of the strongest finales I have ever experienced in a Zelda game. The first phase has you playing Pac-Man. I'm serious, that's what it is. You have to navigate around this maze and hit warp points to take out the dark trains. Like always, they kill you in one hit. These were easily some of the most annoying things to deal with in the overworld, as they seem to only want to prevent you from taking the quick route to where you wanted to go, if you were unlucky. Thankfully, you can finally take your revenge in this phase of the finale. Once you collect a Tear of Light, you'll be invincible for a brief period. And if you pull the whistle, this happens. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and I am more than happy to have waited this long. Obviously, it's not all fun and games. When your time runs out with a Tear of Light, you are immediately at risk of getting hit, so you need to find the shortest route to the next tier. Once you've derailed all but one dark train, the last one will make a beeline for you, so you need to make damn sure you're next to another tier. After all is said and done, you move on to the second phase, Demon Train Malladus. This is where your train part collecting really pays off. The more health you have here, the better, as you have to switch rails on a dime, slow down to avoid the train ahead of you merging across, and shoot the lasers out quickly before they can zap you. If you've been grinding out force gems and treasures across the various realms, your effort will be rewarded through gameplay here. This phase is a high-speed chase that demands quick thinking and the ability to foresee Malladus' attacks, and I love it. The next phase has you fighting through Cole's various attacks in order to reach Zelda's body, and it's tricky. You need to create a path for Zelda, and as she's walking, fend off Cole's attacks. If Cole possesses Zelda's suit, you need to find an angle to knock Cole away with the boomerang, which will set you back a bit. The terrain gets narrower as you approach the front of the train, meaning less room for error as your goal inches closer. Then, you shoot Malladus with the Bow of Light and free Zelda's body. Unfortunately, Zelda can't reclaim it at first, and Malladus attacks, but not before Byrne can repel him. This gives her the strength to finally reunite with her body, but unfortunately, Byrne is killed by Malladus shortly thereafter. Malladus is resurrected in his demonic form, reminiscent of a certain other demon king from the past. All you have to do here is deflect his projectiles as Zelda charges her power, but at this point the adrenaline is pumping. The desire to avenge Byrne is flowing through me. And then, just as you succeed, you have to play the Spirit Flute again. It's really awkward, and I have no idea why this game insists on stepping on its own feet, but it is cool to finally play the game's leitmotif to bring an end to the story. From there, you just need to line up Malladus' head with Zelda's line of sight, and bring him down once and for all, together. With the Demon King defeated and as Anjean disappears, Link and Zelda join hands. You control them together throughout the entire game, and you end things together as a team. What a great ending. Spirit Tracks has a very beefy finale, but it's one I don't think I'll ever forget. It manages to give purpose to exploration of all of the game's systems, even ones I harshly criticized. And Linebeck and Byrne's character arcs may not be as fleshed out as Midna's or Groos's, but they bring heart to otherwise simple games. You know what? That's the best way to summarize Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. They're simple. They don't strive to be like their 3D counterparts or even the 2D games that came before them. The overworlds are simpler and more linear. Their structure is formulaic as you go between dungeons and their central tower. They don't overwhelm the player with too many things to memorize, instead implementing a note-taking system that drives a lot of their design. The control scheme is simple but graceful. The dungeons are simple but well constructed. The games are just simple. And in that regard, the team accomplished their goal to create accessible Zelda games. And yet, I've gone on about these games for over an hour. Despite their simplicity, they have a lot of uniqueness to offer, and I ended up having far more to say about them than I thought I would. They were simple games from a simpler time, and when I revisit them, it's like stepping into a time machine when the DS dominated portable gaming. With that said, I also believe these games are complex in that they are two halves of a whole, but not in the same way that Oracle of Seasons and Ages are. In this case, they both have strengths and weaknesses over one another. Phantom Hourglass's items are succinct and creative reworks of old Zelda items, whereas Spirit Tracks tried to experiment with new ones to mix results, aside from the Sand Wand. Meanwhile, Spirit Tracks has an edge over Phantom Hourglass in dungeon design, thanks to significant improvement over the latter's lackluster dungeon theming. The overworld is evocative of the best parts of Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass, whereas in Spirit Tracks it is peculiarly segmented. The Temple of the Ocean King has a great concept that encourages its core focus and enables fast times, but the repetition is bound to sink in. Spirit Tracks loses out on that speedrunning approach, but refines pretty much everything that made the Temple of the Ocean King fun, and introduces an awesome new central mechanic through Princess Zelda. These games are so oddly codependent on each other. I can't help but feel like a third DS game would have perfected their concepts, but that era is long gone. Still, they bring me comfort in all of their ups and downs. Are these games truly great successors to Wind Waker? Not entirely, but I don't think that's what they were intended to be. Phantom Hourglass may borrow part of its identity from Wind Waker, but it is very much its own beast. Meanwhile, Spirit Tracks is less a sequel to Wind Waker, and more a sequel to Phantom Hourglass, and despite everything I disliked, that was for the best. These games took the message of the Wind Waker to heart. Rather than following in their predecessors' footsteps, they created something new. Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks may be flawed, and I may still be yearning for a true sequel to my favorite game of all time, but they were wonderfully distinct yet endearingly simple adventures that I won't soon forget. Oh, by the way, you might be wondering what my idea of an ideal Wind Waker successor would be. Well, I was going to tell you, but I won't, as it's something I'd like to make someday. Maybe you'll find out in the future. For now, I've been Liam Triforce, and I'd like to thank you for watching.
Bruh. It's a reverse melt team. How'd you fucking get 4,000 attack? Oh wait, Bennett. Alright. We merged everything. Let's do this. Just the Ganon fight. We're going to pretend I actually still broke the weapons that I broke. If I remember correctly, in the worst run where I broke the most weapons, I broke like 5 weapons.
This video is sponsored by Describe. Last year I made a video about wrapping your mind around the subject of spell slots and Vancian magic, which is the magic system D&D uses. If you haven't watched it because you're new to my channel, go back and check it out, it's pretty good. But there's another big part of D&D, and honestly many tabletop role-playing games, that can be a bit difficult to reconcile, especially through the lens of games like 5th edition D&D. And that's the question of hit points and armor class. Look, first of all, we all know why hit points exist as a mechanic. We want a way to represent the health of an adventurer, and more specifically, how much damage you can take before you die. Because damage and death are usually a pretty big deal in any action story, and RPGs are no different. But of course, we also sometimes wonder how a player character can survive some of the things that get thrown their way. I'm reminded of this Brian David Gilbert quote about the origin of the term hit points.
Back in the 1920s, the Naval War College created an early form of this in order to help evaluate battles before actually fighting them. They had a stat called life, which was determined by how many 14-inch shell hits a vessel could take. So that's what a hit point is. How many 14-inch shells it would take to kill you. Every living creature is 1 hit point. The end.
But as he goes on to point out in his very good video, this definition of hit points had to be adjusted when gamers started playing games like D&D, and started playing out battles with individual characters instead of full armies, which means hit points are just a further abstraction of a larger concept. What exactly do they represent? Do they map well onto our understanding of how the human body works? And ultimately, how does this question actually inform the style of your game? Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that the 5e rules state that hit points represent a combination of physical and mental durability, the will to live, and luck. Now that's a pretty broad definition and doesn't give us a lot to work with.
Alright, so the weapons that I
Or
broke
does it?
were...
Well, let's start with that last word,
this,
luck. One kind of common
this.
interpretation in
I'm
online
pretty
spaces
sure I
is
broke
the idea that
light
hit
scale,
points
tried
don't
it, but
actually represent
let's
damage
just
taken
assume I
during a
spent
fight.
a diamond.
If it did, then it stands to reason player characters would be
I'll
mutilated
go
beyond
get rid of
all
the diamond
recognition from
later.
all the hits they've taken and somehow
I'm
survived.
just not gonna use
Adventurers
that
would
one.
be 90% scar tissue.
I believe
Instead,
I broke
some
one of
tables
these
consider that hit
and
points
one of
essentially
these.
represent not getting hit. They instead represent luck
Oh,
or
and
fortune,
I
or
guess
just
I broke one of
agility
the
and
blade
dexterity.
saws.
So when a player character is dropped to 0 hit points by an attack, that's the one attack that hit. Every other attack missed, but reduced the player's luck or stamina to
I
avoid
believe
that
that's
strike.
about
For example,
it.
let's look at the fight between
Well, I
Brienne of
did
Tarth and Arya
originally
from
break
Game
one
of
of
Thrones.
these,
Matt
but that was
Colville,
done
my new best friend,
previous
once tweeted about this
playthrough,
fight
but
several
you know
years
what,
ago
whatever,
and
I'll
used
get
it
rid
as
of
an
it.
example of
Oh,
this
I also
concept in
broke the
action.
ancient
The
shield
idea that
once.
hit points equal luck. In this scene, when Brienne swings and Arya dips out of the way, he argues that this would be represented in D&D as Arya burning some of her HP to
I'm not
specifically
gonna get
avoid
rid
getting
of
hit.
it.
Apparently, this is the intended interpretation of hit points in the early editions of the game, per, again, someone in Matt Colville's replies on that thread. And in theory, it makes sense. After all, the stamina required to stay on your feet during an exhausting fight could account for how your hit points are determined by your constitution. And of course, if you're running a game where you want it to seem unrealistic that someone can take a hit from a dragon's breath or a dinosaur's bite and keep going in the fight, then yeah, I understand the appeal. It's the same mentality that lines up with something like the OSR, which I'm sure we're going to talk about another day. But when you're trying to reconcile how 5e handles hit points, this answer doesn't really work for me. From my perspective, dodging out of the way of an attack seems like it would be based less on your constitution and more on your dexterity, which is why something like that I feel will be better covered under your armor class. When someone misses an attack in a D&D encounter, I'm usually very clear to describe that if the roll was low enough or the target doesn't wear a lot of armor,
nice.
they're avoiding the
You
blow
get an
by dodging out
option.
of the way. If the roll was very close to hitting, and especially if the target has decent
Why
armor
didn't
or a
I
shield,
just
I'll
install
describe
this?
them blocking the hit and knocking the weapon away. If the target is a villain and I'm trying to make them seem like a badass, I'll describe how they block the attack with their own weapon, and they lock blades with the player character, staring into their eyes and smiling. Something like that. However, I don't think that approach would work if I used it to describe damage. If I say something like, you swing your blade and the Orc War Boss rolls out of the way,
disabled
roll for
nightmare
damage.
mode in case I
I think
ever
that's
wanted
going to
to
be
play it
pretty
again,
confusing.
but
Wait,
I
you
can
said I
actually just
missed.
uninstall
No,
that
you
now.
hit. But he rolled out of the
Anyway,
way.
we're just going
Right.
for the default
Narratively.
now.
Well, then how is it different
Just
than if I
pretend
just
I already went
missed?
through that
And
stupid
so on,
ass
you understand.
gauntlet that I
Now,
just
one
don't
workaround
want
to
to
that
bother
issue
with
is to not use this
anymore.
approach for monsters and enemies, but just to use it when describing attacks
けど
against
君のためじゃ
heroes.
ないよ
After all, it doesn't matter if your villains recover from a bunch of intense attacks they wouldn't really be able to survive, because villains and monsters aren't likely to have a life expectancy longer than 10 rounds. And if they do survive an intense attack and they retreat, they can bear the evidence of the fight in some form of badass scars. Not only will that make the villain more imposing, it will also remind the players of their prior encounter.
Double
So again, it really
health,
seems like the
huh?
question of what hit points represents only becomes an
Let's
issue
go.
when discussing how much damage player characters are able to take. But again, even in that context, I just don't find this approach to be a satisfying solution. And my other reason for that is because, well, some attacks deal different types of damage. If someone is
Fuck, I
resistant
forgot
to
that.
piercing damage but vulnerable to bludgeoning damage, then why does that matter if the
Actually,
narrative
no.
explanation is that the target dodged the attack? Or let's say someone gets hit with a stinger, and they take piercing damage and poison damage.
Oh, what the hell is
If
going
the
on
justification
with...
for hit points is that sometimes you don't get hit until
Okay,
one
it's
big
gone.
attack knocks you unconscious, then the difference in these sorts of damage types doesn't actually matter. If your rationalization for hit points is that the character is successfully dodging the attacks but losing energy or luck while doing so, then why bother
Make it so
distinguishing
fast.
between bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, let alone cold, or fire, or acid, or thunder, or lightning? Again, this might not bother you. After all, it's all an abstraction anyway, so really, who cares? But that's just why it doesn't light up for me. So, the way I explain it instead is that, yeah, you did get hit. Physically, something
Ow.
struck you. And now you have to shake that off and keep fighting. And now's the part where I tell you that all of this actually has to do with how you approach your game, and how you describe the mood and the details of your encounters. Well, actually now is the part where I cut to an ad, but after that, we're going to talk about the stuff I just said. Enjoy the advertisement, and now, a word from our sponsor. Welcome to Great Moments in D&D History, presented by Artemis Gleam. Episode 4, The Gorgon. For decades, Dungeons & Dragons players who are also familiar with Greek mythology have scratched their heads at the game's description of the Gorgon. While the Gorgons of Greek myth were usually a set of sisters with snakes for hair and the ability to turn those who behold them into stone, the Gorgon of Dungeons & Dragons was instead a metal ball whose stomach was filled with poisonous gas. Even more so than
I'm pretty
most
sure even
cow
his
stomachs.
arrows don't
Some have
work.
speculated that Gary Gygax modeled his Gorgon after the strange Libyan beast from Edward Topsell's 1607 zoological text, The History of Four-Footed Beasts, since the Libyan beast is also described as an ox-like creature with poisonous breath. However, this text was pretty difficult to parse, and it seems clear that Gary Gygax would have needed a great deal of help translating this lore into an understandable description that he could use in his game. Of course, this researcher believes
No,
Gary
oh my
Gygax
God.
possessed a time machine and was able to seek assistance from today's sponsor, Describe. The sages at Describe provide pre-written text that you can use in your tables to describe monsters, magic items, spells, locations, and characters. And they don't just offer more than 7,000 scenes on their website,
It
they're
also
constantly
makes
creating
us
new
up its
descriptions
attack.
based on your submissions. Which, of course, is what Gary Gygax did when he created a Describe account
Oh
and
God, yeah, it
copy-pasted
makes
the
us up
Libyan Beast
laser
text
firing
from
rate.
Edward Topsell's book. A thing
Yeah.
he absolutely did. If you visit describe.com/supergeek and use the promo code supergeek at checkout, you can save 10%
Just
off of your first subscription payments.
go
which is also
for it.
something
I
Gary
don't know
Gygax
what
did
else
through the
can
benefit
work.
of time travel. Thus ends our 4th episode of Great Moments in D&D History, presented by Artemis Gleam. Once again, that's dscryb.com/supergeek, and make sure to use the promo code supergeek. My descriptions of damage definitely line up more with the will to live definition of hit points. From my perspective, when you're describing a battle where player characters can take multiple hits and keep fighting, you kind of need to play by Indiana Jones rules. Because, yes, these characters are going to take some punishment. But unless they take enough damage to knock them down, it's going to be a superficial injury. It's going to be minor enough that they can shake it off. Sure, it might take the wind out of them, it might even stagger them or bloody them. God, I miss the bloodied condition from 4th edition. But unless it's a hit that actually takes them down, then I'll describe it as something that isn't necessarily lethal. The crossbow bolt hits you in the shoulder and sticks right through. Because you can describe things that way, and hopefully your group can still accept the premise that your player characters are still able to fight. I'm thinking particularly of an episode of Firefly, where the first thing that happened in the fight was that somebody threw a hooked blade into Mal's shoulder. And yeah, he kept fighting. It sucked for him, he had to get patched up later, and he probably spent the rest of the day favoring that shoulder, but we as the audience don't assume he's going to die from that hit. Now, one of the ways I justified this approach to damage is I don't worry about asking players to describe specific scars they might take, unless an attack is powerful enough to knock them unconscious. If If an attack drops the hero to 0 hit points, then when they get healed, they're still going to have a physical scar on their body. Now, I don't care what that scar ultimately looks like, if it's visible on exposed skin or easily covered by their clothes or their armor, that's all up to the player's discretion. But that scar becomes part of their character.
Okay,
and it's
so
my way of saying,
the most
this damage
effective
is going to leave
strategy
an
tactics
impact,
available
and no
there
magical healing is going
is
to
to use
properly
the Ancient
remove
Arrow.
the reminder of that fight. Of course,
the
this
Ancient
gets into the
Bow
topic of how
and spam
magical
Ancient
healing works,
Arrows.
but honestly, how you describe magical healing is determined by how you describe damage. Since I don't worry
If that's
about
the case,
describing
then,
how
oh
most
no.
battle impacts would leave scars, my interpretation of magical healing is that it just speeds up the healing process and leaves no impact, besides the scars left by dropping to 0 hit points. Because otherwise, if the damage is more severe, with broken bones and the like, then the players need magical healing, or...
Okay,
幾度滅ぼされようと
just skip this stupid cutscene, who cares? Oh wow, I didn't even. Alright, we just win now, right? Unless Dark Army Resurrection did something funny here.
ガノンは全身を怨念で覆っていますこのままではどんな攻撃も受け付けないでしょう私が怨念を抑えます力はありずわずかですが光っているところを見抜いてくださいリンク
Man, this would have been so cool if we had a motorcycle instead. Fighting the Dark Beast Ganon.
今のうちに早くガノンの力が弱まってきています
The most amount of arrows I did spend was 10, so I should technically be out of ancient arrows by
今
now
です怨念を抑えています
as well. So yeah, ultimately this checks out. A checkpoint would have been very nice indeed. It's just not as fun for Zelda as it is with like Mega Man or something. Alright, the next one's in the underbelly. I did it. I mean, at this point, I got to the final Ganon part enough times. I'd say this is justified, alright? I'm not coping. I mean, we'd have to get all philosophical about mods and stuff, but like... For the sake of my conscience, and because I've been playing this mod pack I've made for myself for too long now, I should just accept that I've won. Maybe I'll try this again some other time, once I've done the DLC and collected all the shrines and stuff. But for now, I won. I'm just skipping that cutscene actually, I don't give a damn.
"私はずっと見守ってきました。あなたの運命も苦難も戦いも。だから私信じていました。あなたが必ず厄災ガノンを打ち倒してくれると。ありがとうリンク。ハイラルの勇者、私を覚えていますか？
I have to clean my screen one of these days. Yup. Most painful indeed. You know what? May as well do my usual thing. So, Dark Army Resurrection. Started playing this since it's like version 4. It's like version 8 now, and with Tears of the Kingdom, it seems like I have no idea whether or not this guy will continue trying to work on this mod as it is right now. I mean, there's still some few kicks, but like with how ambitious this thing is, I mean, there are other stuff that are just as ambitious. I haven't played them yet, so I don't know if they are as buggy as Dark Army Resurrection, but it had a goal in mind. It had an idea on what it set out to do, and I would say it did a really good job of doing that, for better or for worse. A Kaizo of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Even though the base game itself, many people might, even though I'm very good at it now, I still kind of consider it a really, really hard game. I'd probably still have a harder time replaying through if I had the exact same amount of skill and 800 hours of Breath of the Wild and 800 hours and skill in Dark Souls. There are just some problems. First of all, playing this mod in master mode, I think Waikuteru, no, not Waikuteru, is the guy that made the randomizer. The creator of this, I believe their name starts with a Z. If you're watching this, it's the boss fights, what you've done with them. Mascotia, I still don't agree with, but like, that one I'd say is the best change, where it actually changed up things to be harder. Of course, he also hits like a goddamn intercontinental ballistic missile, which I don't think that part is very fun, but like, and like, I'm pretty sure it's a glitch, man. Like, why is it so hard to get him to transition to his next phase? I haven't fought Mascotia yet. But oh my. And then, yeah. Dark Army Resurrection. In frickin' Relics of the Past, I haven't played it yet, but the way they made the boss harder there is they did place minions down. And yeah, that would have been... Why couldn't Dark Army Resurrection just do the exact same thing? Instead, they decided to do this stupid bullshit where they just have a fuck ton of health and take fucking forever to beat. And then they have basically no stun times. And since all the blights are usually always in the air, you basically don't have all that many opportunities to just wail on them and actually lower their health. When said health is already so overinflated, it's just not fun, it's a time sink. It's like the goddamn Abyss in Genshin Impact. I fucking said it. But like, if they really wanted to, then yeah. So an option for master mode in the options, if they're listening, and I want this to be a thing, there should be they should include a part of Dark Army Resurrection that also overhauls some of the systems in master mode, because there's, people want to play in master mode. At the very least, there should be a way to make some of the features in master mode carry over in normal mode. There's really only one thing I want, and that's the Guardian lasers. I want them to mix up the timing of their laser firing, because that's just way too much fun for me, honestly. Having that change in the Guardians in master mode makes them so much fun for me, rather than being this predictable thing that as long as you have a shield and you can get the correct spacing, you can just do things. Wow, there aren't that many voice actors. Actually, huh? Wow. Interesting. Yeah. I think there should be an option in for those who want to play the game in master mode. For Dark Army Resurrection, for the regeneration, at least for the bosses, overworld bosses included, because they are also tanky as all hell, and they have way less stun times as well, which just it gets overinflated, and they may as well just be invincible in master mode. With how little damage you can inflict, the time you can inflict damage being so small as well, and then their HP just being overinflated. The regeneration should be way slower for the bosses, in order to make things fair at the very least. But I would still say lower the health. And I was playing with Hyrule Rebalance, which Dark Army Resurrection isn't made for, but even without Dark Army Resurrection, even with the intended stuff that Zelda intends you to fight and Dark Army Resurrection intends you to fight, the stats are still so overinflated. Like, I don't get it. There aren't that many stuff you can get. You can only get so strong with weapons and buffs and stuff. How did this guy expect you to fight these guys? Just expect us to be fine with spending like an hour beating a single boss and like wasting through 10 freaking weapon and bow slots and stuff, and just have 999 arrows? Like, no, just no. Kaizo is fun because the time that you spend isn't just being spent. That time spent is you learning, being frustrated, and getting better until you eventually overcome the obstacle. And then you do it all over again with a different obstacle. That's what makes Kaizo fun. They are fulfilling in a hair-tearing sense. You still want to rip your hair out, but you also kind of get this feeling that you want to send death threats. The creator of the mod pack, man. Anyway, I did get the good ending, right? Wait, doesn't this cutscene only play when you... No. Oh, here we go. Yeah, here we go.
今日はゾーラの里に向かいます。
Good, alright, that's all I needed to see. That one's a pre-rendered cutscene, so we're back to being gender bent. What can I say, being a hero comes with perks. Yeah, playing in master mode is just not fun. If you wanna play Dark Army Resurrection, don't play in master mode. But if you will, go add in some mods, like there's this recent one called like Regenerator or something, and it allows you to customize how enemies regenerate their health in master mode, and even allows you to add in regeneration in the base normal mode, which is very great. Anyway, I should be going back to writing now, but alright, I'm gonna make a manual save. And you know, why the hell not? I'm gonna give this one more try, and then I'm gonna start a DLC and make this the typical 2-hour video. And then, yeah, I'm just gonna give the final boss one more try. Just for funsies. Because I hate myself. I'll make a save to make sure that star remains regardless of my stupidity. I should make a backup later. Lights plus Ganon, let's go! Watch me effortlessly make it back even though I have set the blight here to have 2 times health and 50% resistance again, so you're gonna take a little longer to beat and chew up a few more weapons than normal. Hey, starting off with that first. No. There we go. At least this guy is the fastest to fight. For what I have so far. can basically beat him without ever getting hit. Not unless he does this. You've never done this before. How dare you make me eat my own words literally right after I said them. Oh, doing this attack. We have a blind spot. I'm just having fun here. I don't really expect. Wait, what?
言っとくけど君のためじゃないよ。
Guys, I don't think the mod is working properly. I'm already at the final boss again. I'm suddenly doing way better. I'm already on the second phase. Dang it. Bam! Dang it. Oh, ancient arrows still work. Okay, so something wrong is going on. I was supposed to fight everyone else, but for some reason I immediately moved here. Oops. Am I missing something? Hold on, let me check the info about the mod. And while I'm doing that, I'm also gonna try remerging stuff. New game plus gun. You know, I may as well download the Dark Army Resurrection Overhaul, Armor Overhaul patch for Linkle 3.0. Even though I already have the other one I'm using and it works well enough. Just in case. I'm not gonna install it since installing things is a pain in the ass. Endgame, there we go, that's the name. God. A multi-flag check save file. Save editor here. You can do the plateau normally, you can leave the plateau without towers or shrines. No ruins extraction. Different about this save file. Oh, it's a save file. Never mind, I thought it would be an actual New Game Plus feature. I feel cheated. Breath of the Wild, but I have it's this mod. I guess it's out for the public now. It's not really much of a gun. It's still funny though. I'll download this. I might want to play with it someday. I doubt it's compatible with Dark Army Resurrection. Endgame. Welcome to Endgame. Success for to always fight blights. And Ganon rebalance. You not always fight the 4 blights. The 4 blights have faster and more difficult attacks. Ganon's AI is faster. Nightmare mode gives Ganon even more health and gives both him and the blights faster and stronger. Ganon only mode includes the even more difficult version of Ganon from Nightmare mode, but without the requirements to fight the blights first. If you are unsure, just grab the regular version. Interesting. Here's a mod, although it doesn't seem to be all that stable. It makes the final fight, which is just a cutscene, a glorified cutscene, a lot harder by having you have to dodge laser beams from guardians. Interesting. Alright, let me just... Should I uninstall Nightmare Mode? I mean, not like it'll take that long to reinstall it. Yeah, I'll go uninstall that and then I'm gonna go remerge. See if that'll do anything. Delete everything and merged. Then remerge. Anyway, yeah. Just increasing the health is more than enough. I don't think there needs to be... Yeah, adding mooks will make it more exciting, but otherwise, if you just want the bosses to take a little bit of time and be a bit of a weapon sink, then just increasing the health, at least for the fight in inside the Divine Beast. I kinda like that they have increased AI in the Hyrule Castle. Instead though, since the arena there is way more smaller. No need to deal with the water in the second phase for Water Blight. And no need to worry about the blights just hanging out in the sky. Just healing. Wasting time. Alright, let's do this.
And bones and the like, then the players need magical healing or lots of time to deal with those injuries. And that doesn't line up with 5e's approach to natural healing, where you regain all of your hit points at the end of a long rest. Whether you like that approach to hit points or not is sort of a separate topic, and we'll come back to that. Right now, we're just trying to find ways to rationalize 5e's approach to damage. And obviously, only describing players getting scarred up by dropping unconscious is just my approach to damage. You might feel differently. You might still not want to describe the PCs getting scarred with every single hit, but maybe only doing so on those final hits that knock them unconscious doesn't feel dramatic enough or realistic enough. Maybe a nice compromise is that the character will get a scar whenever a hit is powerful enough to take them below half of their hit points. Which, by the way, was the bloodied condition from 4E, and a bunch of awesome stuff happened when people were bloodied. Y'all slept on 4th edition, there was some good stuff going on there. In our Curse of Strahd game, the entire group got hit by a lightning bolt spell, and almost all of them got knocked unconscious. So they all agreed that they had these scars that the kind of people get when they get struck by lightning. Some characters had the scar on their arm, other...
So... Wait, what are you giving Elemental Mastery? Oh! Fucking Bennett C6. Okay, it's already finished. Oh, hey! Ako suwatsutunde Kiteki toki meki gweni Yasashi you don't know the rest of the lyrics. Maybe I should change the priority or something. Okay, nope, it's still straight to Ganon after Windblight.
けど君のためじゃないよ。
guess if I want to fight all of them, I'd go reinstall Nightmare mode.
They had scars that kind of people get when they get struck by lightning. Some characters had the scar on their arm, others had them on their neck, or their chest, totally up to the players. Then, when the moment presents itself, given a dramatic opportunity to do so, I'll reference to the scar, but it would be visible for no any dimension. But I do so, it effectively reminds the players of what their characters have been through. If I've done a good job of asking them to describe their war wounds after a fight, I don't always do, but let's pretend I always remember to do this. Then, whenever the scar is referenced again, it will serve to remind them about that fight. Doing so might actually impact their tactics, as they're reminded of their failures of their performance. Now, a reference to Indiana Jones saves us some, but that's very much a dramatic sound. So, of course, we are surprised with Indiana Jones scar. I just want to run a dramatic game that as a person is incompatible with that style. Possible it might still not work for you, but I do think it can. My example is the Netflix Daredevil. Matt Murdock gets hit a lot on that show. He gets punched many, many times. One fight, he got the stuffing kicked out of him, he got stabbed, and he did not die from those. In a lot of cases, he didn't even get any specific scars that the makeup department had tracked season to season. Most often, we just saw some blood trailing out of his mouth during the fight. The next scene, he'd be covered in bruises and bandages. And then the next time Charlie Cox did a shirtless scene, he just had this vague network of scars on his body. That's totally fine. In most of these cases, you don't question how Daredevil will then go out and punch people the next day. We accept the premise that he's pushing himself beyond what's normal for a human being, and doing something that simply should not be doing. I'd argue the reason that first hallway fight works is because it's selling us on the idea that he's taxing his body a lot, but his sheer force of will is keeping him in the fight. But of course, in the context of the world as presented, this is a superhero. We know he can take a lot of punishment and then keep fighting. Arguably, that's also true about a game like The Division. This is where we have to address a pivotal question. How much do you want your characters to feel like superheroes instead of regular people? Let's look at Game of Thrones. In Season 1, Ned Stark gets hit in the leg with a spear and down. Fight is over. Every other strike of fight was quickly avoided and arguably lost stamina. That was the hit that landed. Kind of why it would be a challenge to translate a story like the Game of Thrones. They have very different approaches to image taking stories. Later seasons, however, are characters taking surprising and being able to walk it off relatively unscathed. That approach actually lends itself much better to a game like Life. And you can make the case that this shift represents the character development. The reason a single strike can take down a character is because there's gradual escalation of skills and growth escalation of 5 easily. Again, that might be a satisfying answer, but even at low levels, it feels to me like a 5e handles it just doesn't die. How much damage matters. But the later seasons of an adventure fantasy show, that version of the actually seems to line up by these assumptions.
Should work now. Alright, looks like I won't have time to activate the DLC anymore. Oh well. much damage than what I would have wanted. Wow, I am getting way better at handling these. Way faster. Right, I should not use them. Non-metal shield. Am I even still playing the same stats. I reverted them back to normal now. Maybe I misadjusted. Or maybe I've just gotten that better. Well. We are here now. I did it. I beat Ganon again. Well, there you go. And I didn't break a single weapon. Okay, I broke a single weapon. And how many fairs did I lose? I lost basically everything. I just realized I kept forgetting I still had 7 fairs. This is supposed to just say 1. Yep. May as well. What do you mean can't carry any more of these? Wow! Wait, are you serious? What?
どんな攻撃も受け付けないでしょう。私が怨念を抑えます。力が
Bruh!
わずかですが、光っているところを射抜いてください。リンク、ルーンを。
Well, it's the boss fight I wanted.
今です。怨念を抑えています。
But, the glitches persist. I need ancient arrows. I can't get fully healed
ご
otherwise.
めんなさい。持ちそうにありません。
Yeah, I blame you. Mochi frickin' died. Okay then, they don't drop anything. Well, it's a little fun, and my Bochi did die, but that was just from the surprise. As long as you have as long as I have the bow of light, even without a horse, I should still be able to avoid the guardian lasers fine enough, and theoretically I could still win. But okay then, apparently you need a bow slot. 3. Whatever. I already beat it. I'll count that as a win. I'm just getting out of here. I'm done. I'll go get rid of these. Get out of here. I still have 15 minutes. Alright, I dig that though. I dig it. Quite a lot, in fact. Alright, well, I would like to recover all of my health. Actually, since I am going to start the DLC, and the DLC forces you to be in one heart, oh right, I also need to get rid of all my ancient arrows. Yeah, the biggest difference there as to why I didn't spend as much weapons as I did was because I was way more liberal with my ancient arrows. That's like the key difference between all my runs. Between my previous runs and that run. Right, will I be able to use the powers of my friend, the power of friendship still? Either way, this set won't really be all that useful. The stealth set might be good, but if the enemies randomly spawn, I believe the set that might be best. Electro resistance would have been the best, but unfreezable. Yeah, I'm gonna be Pyra. I don't have that ability. I did use the ancient bow for the majority, so... Oh wow, I can actually pick them back up. There, this is only fair. Oh well, should I make it canon that Bochi died? Or rather, Parelia? Yeah, fine, I'll go get a Parelia replacement. Just to make it canon that I also beat that version, even though I did indeed die. You didn't see that, okay? I wanted to prove a point, the point has been proven. But that's weird. How come there weren't any guardians and I was able to get the bow of light just fine last time? And now all of a sudden those guys show up and stuff. Whatever. My only real regret is that I didn't beat this mod in master mode.
Exploits in a book, which is when you're playing the normal game. In a game, there's really no author there to determine the most dramatically appropriate moment for a character to get hit with a powerful attack that knocks them unconscious or kills them. That's all decided entirely by the dice. So, in part because no one person can predict exactly when and how the characters will take damage, we treat hit points as an approximation. In my games, I like to explain them by saying that the characters will be able to shake off these attacks no matter what weapon they're being dealt with. Yes, realistically, if a goblin in a cave with a rusty knife stabs you, that wound would certainly get infected. If you want to include that sort of mechanic in your games, you're welcome.
Speed up is actually a good thing to have. Yep, enemies still spawn randomly. You're disabled. Yeah, whatever. Nice. Did it. Might as well finish off one. Of these trials. And then right there, right now. What do you mean? I need to find a campfire. Perhaps it'll make my own. Make sure all the collateral fire burns off first. Don't want to accidentally die. I still won't be changing my armor mid-combat and stuff. I'll try to self-limit myself to that, but it is just way too inconvenient being unable to just change your equipment on the menu. I can just bypass that. Do I have the keys? Got 3. Should be more than enough. Order for me to do what needs to be done. You know the safest way I can do this? I'm curious. Ooh! Unfortunately, I sold off the helmet. Well, I could still probably get the full set if I just get the topaz circlet earrings, whatever. For now, yeah, I really need to get that. I may as well redo all the shrine and side quests as well while we're at it. Along with all 120 shrines again. Why not? One thing I'm not a fan of in Master Mode are the new enemies they spawn in the bridges. The line along the Great Plateau will always be funny, and I like that. As for the other enemy placement additions, they're kinda just confusing. Right, got the autosave. That's that.